Captain Elena Voss had commanded the Frontier Dawn for 7 years, but nothing in her extensive training had prepared her for the phenomenon of raising human children aboard an interstellar vessel populated by aliens who found humanity both fascinating and utterly baffling. The Galactic Council had initially opposed human participation in their alliance. Humans were too volatile, they said, too emotional, too unpredictable. But after the Battle of Epsilon Ridge, where Commander Marcus Chen had negotiated a peace treaty between 3 warring species in under 6 hours using nothing but persistence, caffeine, and what he called aggressive diplomacy, the Council had reluctantly opened their doors. Now, 5 human families lived aboard the Frontier Dawn, part of an experimental integration program. Elena oversaw not just the ship's operations, but also the delicate balance between species who had evolved on opposite ends of the galaxy, with their crystalline exoskeletons and telepathic abilities, found human children particularly perplexing. The young ones whom the Velcrin had dubbed cubs despite Elena's repeated corrections, seemed to operate on chaos itself. They ran when they should walk. They shouted when silence was appropriate. They touched everything with their curious sticky fingers. Today, however, something was wrong. Elena stood in the observation deck, reviewing supply reports, when Dr. K, the ship's Velcrin medical officer, approached with his usual gliding motion. His crystalline face reflected the starlight in prismatic patterns, but his mental signature broadcast concern. "Captain Voss," he said, his voice like wind chimes. "The cubs have gone silent." Elena's head snapped up. "Silent, all of them. For approximately 43 minutes, they entered the recreational bay and have not emerged. No sound has been detected." Every parent knew that silence from children was never a good sign. Elena abandoned her datapad and hurried toward the recreational bay, calyx floating behind her. Her mind raced through possibilities. Had they gotten into the engineering supplies, found the emergency rations, discovered the cargo bay with the Thalaxian entertainment devices that were definitely not child-appropriate? As they approached the bay, Elena noticed several other aliens gathered outside the entrance. There was Sergeant Throck, a massive Korgoth warrior whose species had once been the galaxy's most feared soldiers, and Ambassador Lig, a graceful Etherin whose people communicated primarily through bioluminescent patterns on their skin. "Why haven't any of you gone inside?" Elena demanded. Throck, who stood nearly 8 feet tall and could bend steel with his bare hands, actually looked uncomfortable. "We were unsure. Human cubs are unpredictable. We did not wish to disturb whatever process they might be undergoing." Elena resisted the urge to laugh. These were beings who had conquered worlds, navigated black holes, and survived in the vacuum of space, yet they were intimidated by 7 human children between the ages of 4 and 9. She pressed the door control. The recreational bay doors slid open with a soft hiss, and Elena froze. 7 children sat in a perfect circle in the center of the room, not playing, not fighting, not even talking. They sat cross-legged, hands resting on their knees, eyes closed, breathing in synchronized rhythm. Around them they had arranged every pillow, cushion, and soft toy in the bay into smaller, concentric circles. At the center of their circle was 6-year-old Sophie Martinez, her dark curls falling around her serene face. To her right sat 8-year-old James O'Connor, the unofficial leader of the group. The others, Ma David, Aria, Lucas, and little 4-year-old Maya, completed the formation. "What in the name of ... Elena breathed. Sophie's eyes opened slowly. She looked at Elena with an expression of profound calm that no 6-year-old should possess. "Hello, Captain Voss. We're meditating. Elena stepped inside, aware of the gaggle of aliens crowding behind her to observe. "Since when do you meditate?" James opened one eye. "Since we watched Ambassador Lyria do her morning light cycle ritual. It looked cool. The Etherean breathing patterns are mathematically optimal for achieving mental clarity," Emma added, her natural voice carrying the same matter-vec tone she used when explaining her theories about wormhole navigation to confused engineers. Dr. Calyx pushed forward, his crystalline structure humming with what Elena had learned to recognize as intense curiosity. "You observed the ambassador's private meditation and replicated it?" "Not exactly," David said, opening his eyes. "We made it better. Lyria's bioluminescent patterns flickered in confusion, or possibly offense." Little Maya giggled, breaking character for a moment. "We added the circle thing, because circles are nice, and we synchronized our breathing," Aria explained. "Lucas was breathing too fast at first, but we waited for him to catch up." "I have respiratory issues," Lucas protested. "I'm doing my best." You're doing great, buddy, James assured him, reaching over to pat his shoulder without breaking the circle formation. Throck knelt down, his massive frame somehow managing to look gentle. You created a collective meditation practice. Without instruction, Sophie shrugged, the movement fluid and graceful. We just thought if one person meditating makes them calm, maybe all of us doing it together would make us super calm. And it worked. I haven't wanted to punch Lucas even once in the last hour. That's a new record, Lucas confirmed proudly. Alina watched as the other aliens exchanged glances or their species equivalents. She could almost see the gears turning in their minds. The Galactic Council had spent centuries developing meditation practices, mental disciplines, and consciousness-linking techniques. Each species had their own methods, refined over millennia, and these children had just improvised something new in an afternoon. The pattern is actually quite sophisticated, Calyx murmured, his telepathic senses analyzing the energy in the room. They've created a resonance field. Each child's mental state is reinforcing the others. This should not be possible without years of training. But we're humans, Emma said simply, as if that explained everything. And perhaps it did. The Velcrin had their telepathy, the Korgoth had their strength, the Etherians had their bioluminescence, but humans had adaptability. They had the uncanny ability to observe, absorb, and iterate. They took what they saw and made it their own, often improving it in the process. They were stubborn enough to try things they shouldn't be able to do, and creative enough to succeed anyway. May we join you? Lyria asked softly, her lights pulsing with hope. The children looked at each other, conducting some silent conference that only kids seemed capable of. You have to sit in a circle, Sophie said firmly, and no talking once we start. James gets really mad if people talk. I don't get mad. I just think silence is important for you get mad. All 6 other children said in unison. Alina watched as the most powerful beings in the quadrant awkwardly arranged themselves on the floor, trying to fold their various body types into the prescribed circle. Throke's knees cracked. Calyx had to tuck his crystalline projections carefully. Lyria dimmed her lights to a soft glow. Okay, James said with the authority of a general commanding troops. Everyone close your eyes. Breathe in for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Out for 4. Sophie will count because she's the best at it. 1. 2. 3. 4. As Sophie's small voice filled the bay, Alina felt something shift in the air. The breathing synchronized, the tension eased. Even the ever-present hum of the ship's engines seemed too quiet in that moment. Watching children teach ancient species a new way to find peace, Alina understood why humans had been worth the Council's gamble. They didn't just join civilizations, they transformed them. The cubs had gone silent, yes, but in that silence, they'd found something worth sharing. And that, Alina thought as she quietly backed out of the room, was the most human thing of all.